The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Should the Canucks fix what's not broken and ignore their captain? And should Hronek and Quinn Hughes split up? And should Trevor and Kyle split up? What?
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Nah, man, I'm like a leech. You can only get rid of me if you dump a bunch of salt on me. Figure that one out. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks and also a Canucks writer currently with the Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into today's episode, we got to thank you for tuning into Locked On Canucks. You want to know why? Because it is your Vancouver Canucks every damn day. We're part of that Locked On Podcast Network. They're doing the most for sports fans across the world. And for our show, if you haven't done so already, make sure you go subscribe and like on YouTube. And on the podcast side, go leave us a 5-star review and follow the pod. And we'll love you for a long, long time. Because we ain't here without you, but we're also not here without the sponsors. And before I get into the sponsors, I got to let you know, we're looking for local advertisers on the show, okay? If you own your own business or know someone who owns a business who's looking for a little extra juice, make sure you touch base with us. You can make me your biatch, okay? For now, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I woke up today rock hard, man, and I know Kyle was a little sleepy getting out of bed. He's not a big preseason guy, but
I also don't get up rock hard anymore. I'm 31 and a half years old, so that kind of stopped happening. I noticed that, and I honestly, it's okay though, because there's a time and place, and I was 20 before. You know what I'm saying? I've lived a long life. Anyways, continue.
Damn, it's that's powerful for me, being 2 months younger than you and still waking up rock hard. I love it, and it's only because of Canucks hockey, man. It has nothing to do with age, okay? Canucks hockey is back tonight. Not only is it back, but I realized that the Canucks, they play in 5 of the next 7 days, Kyle, okay? They play tonight. They play tomorrow. They play Friday. They play 2 more times after that within the next week. So Canucks hockey, I know it's just preseason, but it's back in full force, and there's lots to get into in terms of preseason storylines. We also have the opening night lineup for tonight. What do the Canucks lines look like on the first night of the season? If we have some time, I might even guess the lines for the second night, because the Canucks basically have 2 teams right now after reassigning a bunch of players to junior last week. All that and more. And we're obviously going to talk about the Canucks ignoring Quinn Hughes, ignoring the Norris Trophy winner. What is going on? What are we talking about? And hey, we're just speaking truth, man. Before we get into all that, let me introduce my co-host, Kyle Bowen. How you doing, brother?
So we're going to be talking about the first lineup of the preseason or the season, man. Trevor Beggs is such a hockey nut that I actually think he considers the game 1 of the preseason the start of the legitimate season. Like, this is your opening night lineup, okay? This lineup against the Seattle Kracken tonight. You're addicted, bro. You're a true Canadian, and you're Trevor Beggs. And I'm Kyle Bowen. One love to you and you and you and you for listening and watching. One love to the Dodos Art Lab for giving us the space to let us give you that West Coast bias. And man, oh man, 57 reasons why the Canucks will ignore Quinn Hughes. Quinn Hughes. I'm not going to quote him. I will paraphrase. But I think he said, and this isn't regarding the whole situation with him and Filip Hronek possibly being split up, right? I think he said something amongst the lines on an interview that you shouldn't go ahead in life and fix things that aren't broken. He even threw in an old stat at the end of that sentence, right? He's like, I think we were plus 40 last year. Pretty much saying, don't split us up. Don't even think about it. Also saying that, Filip Hronek is a big piece of the Quinn Hughes puzzle. Why Quinn Hughes was able to get 90 points, win the Norris, be so effective defensively, be himself, be so fluid for the majority of the season was, because he has an innate ability and he has these 2 brothers that push him, and it's just a unique situation that this hockey phenomenon is in. But a lot of it also has to do with Filip Hronek being damn good and being his partner. That being said, for a team that wants to push the puck a lot more up the ice and be more better in transition, how can they move forward in this thing called this regular season if 2 of their pairings don't have, legitimacy or consistency when it comes to being able to make first passes? I mean, Tyler Myers, Forbert, Juleson, and Desharnais all possibly, being somewhere in the mix in the bottom 4. And that's not a lot of transition if you're the Vancouver Canucks. And that's why I think Filip Hronek, to balance things out and get more first passes out of your zone, is going to see some time away from Quinn Hughes early on this season.
Damn, you went dark, man. You think the Canucks are actually going to ignore Quinn Hughes?
Dude, I think I get where Quinn Hughes is coming from, and I love how the athlete, the captain, the Norris Trophy winner, a top 5 player in the league, I love how he's calling the shots and, making his case through the media and just, conversating and, again, telling the world that Filip Hronek is his guy. But at the end of the day, again, how can this team move forward and want to be better offensively if for half the game they're getting the puck out by just knocking it off the boards and getting it out of the blue line? You know what I'm saying? I think, again, they want more first passes coming out of their zone. And if you split apart Quinn Hughes and Filip Hronek, there's more of a chance that that's going to happen consistently.
Man, oh man. Well, this is a scenario where you're basically saying right now that for a good chunk of the beginning of the season, you see Quinn Hughes and Filip Hronek playing a part. And man, oh man, I'm disagreeing with you on this one, so I'm hitting the button. It's Begsy versus Bowen. Okay, so you're telling me that the dude who just won the Norris Trophy, and by the way, this is also the guy who has the biggest Kiefer Sherwood boner out there. They signed Quinn Hughes' guy and Kiefer Sherwood. You're telling me that this organization is going to ignore Quinn Hughes and take away his dog, his best friend, his guy from the pairing? Not a chance, man. Not at least to start the season. It's not happening. I'm telling you this right now because, look, let's read to the training camp lines a little bit more, right? You've seen Filip Hronek and Quinn Hughes split up, and that's why we're having this conversation like, oh, are they going to play a part? Well, guess what? I mean, obviously, in last year's preseason, they didn't play together at the beginning anyways, and at the very last minute, they end up being put back together. When you look at the lines from this preseason, you got Juleson and Hughes. Do you see those two playing together to start the season? I don't think so. You have Filip Hronek, who's playing with DPD and Kirill Kudryavtsev. Are either of those guys cracking the opening lineup? I don't think so. I think they split up these guys in training camp for the purpose of playing with younger players, with Hughes and Juleson. Let's just see what they have together because they had a little bit of success in the past. Myers has been playing with the younger guys too, or the AHL guys. They're taking the veterans, they're putting them with different guys, kind of spread out the wealth during training camp. But I'm convinced that this team wants to begin the season with Quinn Hughes and Filip Hronek on the same pair because of what Quinn Hughes alluded to. It was one of the best damn pairs in the NHL last season. They were two of the best defensemen in the NHL last season. They complement each other really well. Yeah, I know that there's comments about Filip Hronek deferring too much to Quinn Hughes, but that is really grasping at straws because they were one of the best pairings in the NHL. And if we look at what we saw in training camp, I think one pair that we can read a lot into is Carson Soucy and Vincent Desharnais. I do think they want to give that pairing some run because, look, and I talked about this in late July, and I'm going to pump my own tires again. I believe that on opening night, it's going to be Hughes Hronek, Soucy Desharnais, and Forbort and Myers. And I think Forbort and Desharnais have some more limited puck abilities. Soucy and Myers aren't the greatest puck movers out there, but they can still move the puck. So I think they're going to try Soucy and Desharnais together. I think they're going to try Forbort and Myers together. And if all else fails, then they will switch up Hughes and Hronek. But I think for at least a good stretch of games to start the season, unless the bleep hits the fan, it's going to be Quinn Hughes and Filip Hronek on the same pair.
I get where you're coming from. And, if you rewind the clock to last year and you brought this situation up and you wanted them split up because you're toxic, you're absolutely toxic and you're the darkest guy on the program. I was adamant on not doing that because those two together and, even if they're not playing together in training camp, I'm pretty sure that you can put them together tomorrow or in the next minute and they'll still have that lethal chemistry. And that lethal chemistry allows them to dictate big parts of the game, right? Like that pass that they make from one end of the blue line to the other end of the blue line in the offensive zone, it doesn't look like rocket science, but their ability to pull that off efficiently allows the Canucks attack to be unique. Because more often than not, that means one of the best players in the league is always getting the puck in the offensive zone, no matter what situation. Again, Filip Hronek gets it along the boards and he just rifles it without even looking, so quick, so efficiently. And next thing you know, Quinn Hughes has the puck. It's an effective play. It sounds simple, but it's effing beautiful. And you kind of need that. You dictate the game. You score goals. That's how you win games. But again, for Rick Tocchet and Adam Foote, and there's like this affection, even with the injury to Thatcher Demko, that this team needs to play more offense. I just see a world where, again, they want to experiment early on in the regular season, not even just in the playoffs, having a more balanced lineup within their decor just for the sole purpose of having more puck movers on the ice at any given point. Because as soon as you load up Filip Hronek and Quinn Hughes, bro, I just feel as if you're not just pinned in your own zone a lot. I don't know if that's the case, but I don't know if you can, again, start the transition. There's no key to the engine because, yeah, Myers and Susie can transition the puck. In fact, Susie, he kind of reminds me a lot of Chris Tanev, to be honest. Like, he does. The way he can move the puck, the way he skates. But I'm not convinced that Tyler Myers is that guy all the time. You know what I'm saying? And when he's in his head and things go bad, he's bad. Forbert, Darnay, Juleson, ring it off the boards. Ring it off the boards. Again, it doesn't scream transition. It doesn't scream offense. And the hockey nerd in Talkit and Foot, and even in my mind right now, kind of wants to see it being more balanced. And more notably, Trevor, like, we got to touch on this. Like, Filip Hronek, you're getting paid a lot of money. And I kind of want to see if there's something else in your game. You know, this whole conversation about him deferring a lot of ice and puck time to Quinn Hughes, it doesn't really matter because they're so effective and he's intelligent in doing so, and being able to execute it is a beautiful thing. But $8+ million, this team needs, you know, their defense to somehow pull off a bit of a miracle here amongst the bottom half when it comes to depth throughout the whole league. And if Filip Hronek can live up to being like an $8 million+ defenseman on a separate pairing, I feel like it raises the ceiling of this team.
Yeah, and that's a big if, right? And again, a 7.25 over 8 years for Filip Hronek there, but still one of the richest contracts among defensemen in the NHL right now. It's a tough one for the Vancouver Canucks, and I think another thing that plays into it too is the goaltending situation. You don't got Thatcher Demko back there anymore, and are you better off splitting up those two guys to, again, spread out the wealth and have a better chance of getting the puck out of your own zone? But you talked about Susie being a little bit Tanev-like in terms of his potential puck-moving abilities. Look, so again, if you're believing in Carson Susie, and again, I think he's one of the X factors on the Canucks this season. This guy's going to be playing a big role, especially if Hughes and Hronek are on the same pair. Then you're really just worried about your bottom pairing. And, you know, I think sometimes we overanalyze as guys following this team on a day-to-day basis, the impact of a bottom pairing on a National Hockey League team. They can't be costing you, but if they're treading water, they're probably doing their job. So, it's funny. We kind of flip-flopped a bit. I think last year I wanted to see Filip Hronek on his own pair to maybe lower the value of the contract and see what you have before you sign him long-term. But now you've signed the deal. You may as well just play him in the most successful spot. And that's right now alongside Quinn Hughes. And again, you flip the switch if things don't work out. I think we should leave up to the commenters though. Where should Filip Hronek? See, that's how inseparable they are, man. Come on, they got the same name. Where should Filip Hronek and Quinn Hughes play? Should they play together? Should they play apart? Do you agree with Begsy or do you agree with Bowen? On the other side, let's get into the first lineup of the Canucks season / preseason, whatever you want to call it, and some more news and notes regarding training camp, players to watch tonight. And I do want to touch on a Canuck-related story on another NHL team. Kyle, it's a surprise one for you, buddy. Let's touch on all of that on the other side after we showed it our friends over at FanDuel. All right, NFL fans. Any NFL fans in the house? Okay, it don't matter. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Man, oh man. Big times for my Seattle Seahawks and less so for Kyle's Green Bay Packers. But I got to say, one of the games of the week, Green Bay and Minnesota. All right. And if you're a Packers-loving guy like Kyle Bowen, you might want to place a few bucks on the underdog Packers to knock off the undefeated Minnesota Vikings.
We're the underdogs against the Vikings? Are we at home? No, are we playing in Minnesota?
You're playing no, you guys are at home, but you're playing a 3-0 team, man.
Dude, come on, man. Right. Well, Jordan Love's coming back. Anyways, man, continue, dude. That's embarrassing, dude.
I'm just saying, man. You guys, the Minnesota Vikings just knocked off CJ Stroud.
Okay,
not only knocked him off, they blew him out.
Man. Shut up. Continue, man.
You guys got Malik Willis at quarterback. Oh my God. I might still be picking the Packers. I'm not gonna lie. You guys have had a good start to the season. Whether you're betting on the Packers, Seahawks, Canucks, or whatever else, make sure you go do so on FanDuel.com.
Boom, bam. Shout out to FanDuel. One love to you guys. Okay, we back doing this, and that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks and breakups. Again, if you're new to the show, a lot of new subscribers over the last month. Me and Trevor, man, best friends for a lot of reasons. I'm sorry. The Canucks being the biggest, but the second biggest reason is because we relate to each other, man. Experienced the same breakup around the same time in our lives. And no, we weren't dating the same girl, but our girls were dating other girls very shortly after us. Do the math. It was happening the whole time. Okay. Where am I going with this? I'm going back to what we were talking about in the beginning. Okay, Trevor, I understand like keeping these two together is dynamic and efficient. And I explained I played devil's advocate against my own opinion about the whole situation. I do think that eventually, when all things are set this season, you're still going to see those two and the best version of the Canucks lean into that pairing. That being said, I wonder if like the coaching staff and the management group has like a long-term approach to everything Vancouver Canucks right now. And I wonder if like they're looking at DPD and Tom Willander playing with Quinn Hughes and Filip Hronek. You know what I'm saying? On their own pairings down the road as soon as maybe next year or something. And seeing what Filip Hronek can do on his own ASAP, bro. And if he exceeds and it hits a grand slam and the Canucks are good defensively with Quinn Hughes and him split apart, I feel as if, again, it raises the ceiling not only for the Canucks this season, but next year as well.
Yeah, I think again at this stage of the game, training camp and early preseason, it makes all the sense in the world to split these guys up, right? And I think long term, you do want them split up because it's a lot of talent on one pairing, and in an ideal world, you're better off spreading out the wealth. That being said, I mean Colorado's the opposite example. They put Cale Makar and Devon Taves together, and their defense below them is good enough that it hasn't mattered, especially in that year where they won the Stanley Cup. So I think it can work both ways. If they Canucks start stacking the blue line, maybe they're more inclined to keep those two together. But that being said, especially when you got younger guys on the left side like a DPD or Kudryavtsev, if those two guys are going to crack the NHL sometime in the near future, then yes, of course, I think it makes more sense to split them up in the long term.
And it'll be a beautiful thing. Could you imagine a top four of like as soon as next year with like a mix of DPD and Carson Soucy, but Filip Hronek, Tom Willander, and Quinn Hughes? Pretty effective. Again, we're dreaming here, but that's a conversation for another year. The Canucks start their preseason tonight. I guess they got like their opening night preseason lineup. Trevor Baggs can't wait. Trevor Baggs telling his wife, like, I can't babysit the children tonight. You got to work overtime, baby. I'm going to the bar to watch this preseason game. I'm going to Boston Pizza. Boom, bam. Cactus cut fries, a couple pints, Ubering home just for a preseason game. Why are you so excited tonight? Okay, is it because of this lineup?
I'm excited for the return of hockey in general, and honestly, like I'm a hockey nerd, and I'm curious about the individual storylines that we're going to see here as preseason kicks off. And man, oh man, am I going to go to the bar tonight? I don't know, man. You want to come to the bar with me? What's going on?
No way for a preseason game, bro. Come on, man. Come on. I'm gonna sprinkle it in on the side, and I wish I could have get a notification on my phone as every single time, just like line number 1 hops on. Like I'm pretty sure if I'm correct. I mean, can you just read the lineup first before I make the statement? Is Besser,
Yeah.
Miller, and
All right.
oh no, this is the lineup tonight. Damn.
This is the lineup for tonight. All right. So it's the first line is Brock Besser, Pius Suter, Jonathan Lekarmaki. All right. So not what we saw in preseason. We'll get into what I think the lines will be in Abbotsford, because again, they pretty much split the team in two here. So top line, Besser, Suter, Lekarmaki. Second line, we saw this line all throughout preseason: Nils Höglander, Atu Ratu, and Connor Garland. I'm definitely excited to see what that line can do. And hey, who knows if Ratu can play up to his potential? He's a potential opening night starter. That's a potential opening night line. The third line, you got Danton Heinen, Nils Amon, and Linus Karlsson. Amon and Karlsson, two guys who are on that roster bubble. It can be tough for them to make it. So curious to see if they can stand out against the competition. And the fourth line, you got Vilmer Ulriksson, the 6'6" Swedish teenager, did not get sent back to junior, despite a bunch of guys being sent back to junior. So that's kudos to him. You also got Max Sasson centering and Sammy Blaze on the fourth line, who is on his PTO. On defense, you got DPD lining up against Hronek, much like they did in the preseason. Christian Wolanin with Tyler Myers, and Derek Forbort with Mark Friedman. Artur Shilov expected to start. Ty Young, the backup. He could see maybe a period of action in this game as well.
Whoa. Damn, bro. I could tell you're such a hockey nerd because your eyes actually lit up when you talked about Linus Karlsson and Neil Zaman fighting to be that 13th forward. Straight up. That being said, the whole Atu Ratu thing and your excitement towards seeing Garland and Hoglander be his wingers, and I'm assuming that Atu Ratu actually might be the most played guy tonight for real. And this is considering, again, they want to reward their young guys for having a strong year last year and just see the most out of them before they send them down. And because Rick Tocchet is saying this, man, okay, this comes from a Canucks insider, aka I think this is Chris Faber probably. And honestly, this actually just comes from Rick Tocchet, but he's quoted in saying he's a different player than he was last year. Okay, I see a little bit more of a higher level. He looks fast with his skating. Rick Tocchet on Atu Ratu, tweeted out by Canucks insider again. And the skating, man, it's a huge thing for him. I feel as if everyone was kind of knocking him on that, right? Then that being a position where he needed to succeed, improve vastly. I think it's ironic because a lot of people compared it to what they wanted to see from Bo Horvat coming out of the draft. Like he needed to get a bit faster, and all of a sudden he got faster, right? But more notably speaking, I think I read that piece with Ian McIntyre with Atu Ratu. I think it was Ian McIntyre, and the energy that I got from that piece that excites me the most is Atu Ratu's excitement, ironically, in the game of hockey again. And having fun is so important in being fluid. And if we believe that this guy who at one point had a ceiling so high, right, his potential was like 96, a future first overall pick, right? A lot of that was because he was young and doing his thing and dominant. And most likely he was having a lot of fun. What happens when that fun comes back? Atu Ratu, do the Canucks have a piece here? We spend a lot of time talking about Lecker Mackey. We talk a lot about Tom Willander. We're going to talk about him a lot more throughout the season. But I wonder if Atu Ratu gets in that conversation when it comes to the level of excitement and the level of skill potentially in this player.
Yeah, again, I think the ceiling is something that we can't ignore here with Atu Ratu, and he's still a young guy. Seems like he's been around for quite some time because of the pre-draft hype, because of the fact that he's been traded, the fact that he's played a full season in the AHL, played NHL games the year before. It just seems like this guy's been around a long time. And again, when skating's the biggest knock, that's something that's correctable. And I don't think it's that much of a flaw in his game where you start to worry about it. Like Linus Karlsson's a guy I've worried about it more because he doesn't have as dynamic of a skill set offensively. But I think Atu Ratu, there's a lot of tools that you really like there. And man, playing between two of the biggest buzzsaws on this team and Nils Höglander and Connor Garland, what a great way for him to start training camp. And I think certainly that's the line I have my eye on the most tonight. Aside from that, come on, you got to be excited to watch Lecker Mackey. I think for a lot of fans, casual fans, it'll be maybe their first time watching him play a full game, aside from maybe World Juniors. So he's a guy who you'll sort of have your eye on as well. DP to getting a chance as well. I want to see if Christian Wolanin can make some noise. Maybe he can sneak in as a 7th, 8th defenseman ahead of Noah Juleson. So yeah, again, I'm nerding out, man. I'm nerding out.
Name your next because you've been saying that name a lot this summer, this September. Okay, Wolanin this, Wolanin that, Wolanin this. I think Wolanin should get paid as much as Filip Hronek. Hey, speaking of which, okay, Filip Hronek again playing with DPD tonight. Look at what we just talked about for the last 16 or 17 minutes. I know it's just the preseason, but if that pairing looks effective, dude, it's gonna raise some eyebrows in the positive way, right? The curious nature of Canucks fans will again think of the Canucks defense a little differently. If again DPD is way better than we think he is right away, which again sounds like a stretch, but you never know with the Canucks or just again. DPD. This all being said, I was trying to make a comment. Okay, preseason, right? The preseason's here, and I love hockey. Don't get me wrong, I'm super stoked, but I don't feel like again I'm gonna be super glued in. I'm gonna have the game on in the background, blah blah blah, but the nerves won't be there and the excitement won't ultimately be there. That being said, I wish I would get a notification on my phone every single time DPD and Filip Hronek hit the ice, or anytime Lecker Mackey hit the ice, so I could only just pay attention to those shifts. There you go.
Just watch the game, man. Come on, Kyle. Unbelievable stuff. Okay, let's wrap up on the other side. Two things I want to touch on. I want to look at the players who aren't playing tonight, and I might give my lineup projections for tomorrow. Again, if no one else from today's game plays tomorrow, again, 5 games or 7 nights, I think they're going to probably just split it between guys who aren't playing tonight will play mainly tomorrow. I also want to talk about one other NHL player related to the Canucks who was in the news recently, and maybe we'll get to a couple more of your comments if we have time. Before we get to that, we got to shout out our friends over at Indeed and a new sponsor, PrizePicks. Okay, summer is over, so you know what that means. Get off your ass and find a job, okay? And if you're an employer looking to hire, make sure that you use Indeed, okay? Because if you need to hire, you need Indeed. They are your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data. And they got a matching engine so fast, it helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work and use Indeed for scheduling, screening, messaging, so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed, they don't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality of matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Indeed. If you look up the definition of easy in the dictionary, you'll find Indeed, because they leverage over 140 million qualifications and preferences daily, and their matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Listeners of the show, guess what? You'll get a $75 sponsored job credit. Wow. To get your jobs and more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this very podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right. And the new sponsor, baby. Okay. Welcome to the family, PrizePicks. All right. So with PrizePicks, they are the #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. And on PrizePicks, you can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. All right. And if you want to play PrizePicks along guys like Drewski, Joe Budden, and MMA champ Sugar Sean O'Malley, you can find now in the community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each week. There's degenerates all over the globe, baby. So make sure that you download the PrizePick app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNHL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game.
Okay, we back doing this, and that's talking about preseason hockey involving your Vancouver Canucks, Trevor Beggs, Kyle Bowen at the Locked On Podcast Network and the Don't Doze Art Lab. Hey, hit us with the like button right now, okay? It saves the lives of Trevor Beggs and Kyle Bowen. How so? Again, a conversation for another day. Wait till you read the autobiographies, okay? You know what, Trevor? When it's way down the road and we have to come out with autobiographies, I feel like we shouldn't have autobiographies. We should have like a dual autobiography, you know? Do one of those things. 2 books in one. Beggsy and Bowen. More on that later as well. You want to get to your news and notes, okay? You want to do this, blah, 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 talk about this. Can we just get to the comments, man? Can we just give it to the people? Can we just do that, man? Because we ain't here with the people, okay? Can you just pick out some comments and just read some comments, man?
All right, sounds good. Notes in the trash. We'll worry about that another day. Vancouver is my life. Shout out to Ryan there, one of the OGs among our commenters. I'm actually hyped for a preseason for the first time since 2010.
Oh.
It has been a while, baby. What about 2010 and 2011? But at the end of the day, I guess it's hard to be hyped for a preseason after you lost Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Finals. So I understand, man. And preseason hype, you got to pump the brakes a bit. Like, I'm excited to see some of these guys and some of these roster battles. But as Mother Nucker says in the comments, he remembers when Taylor Pyatt had the Bertuzzi hype. So, what? Had Jake DeBrusk did
How old
nothing
is
to
Mother
quell that
Nucker?
this week?
Is Mother Nucker 66 years old?
Oh, man, come on. He's a young 43, just like Quinn Hughes, man. Come on.
Hey, speaking of being a young 43, man, happy birthday to Andrew. Okay, big part of the family here on Lockdown. I don't know if he's 43, but you know what I'm saying? Happy birthday to him. Okay, so Trevor, again, I've been knocking my own preseason hype this whole day. It still hasn't hit me. Like, I'm really just excited for October and whatnot. And it's like the level of intensity is so different in the preseason that it's hard for it to be bearable, especially after a postseason, right? It's not even in the middle between the postseason and day one of the regular season. That being said, I will say I'm a little jaded because I've said this throughout the whole week. It's so interesting to be in September and look forward to Canucks hockey, not just for like being Canadian, but more specifically, like the hope and belief is back, which hasn't been the case in so long. And so long, even with the post bubble, right? I feel as if the regular season after that started in a weird time, didn't it? It was like just a different time, like the all Canadian season. Like it was just different, right? And now it's September and the kids are back to school and like it feels like a new year and the Canucks are good again. And I can understand again the excitement for the preseason. So one love, enjoy the game tonight, do your thing. And as Infamous says, hockey, man, I can't believe hockey's back.
Hell yeah, man. And look, I was already watching preseason highlights this morning. That's how much of a degenerate I am. But and it's not even Canuck highlights, man. What the hell is wrong with me? I just love this thing called hockey, this thing called the NHL, and I especially love this thing called your Vancouver Canucks. Last comment to Mother Nooker. If Lekkerimaki scores tonight, be ready for the McCann hype 2.0. I think the hype is already beyond what the McCann hype was, just based on the scrimmages, what this guy did in the juniors. Look, McCann was a hyped prospect, but I think Lekkerimiki's on another level just because the ceiling's higher. And Jake DeBrusk did nothing to, ease the hype by comparing his shot to David Pastrnak. So, yeah, if he scores tonight, again, he's not playing with DeBrusk and Pedersen, so it's a bit different out there. He'll be playing with Suter and Besser. If he scores tonight, for sure, though, there'll be some more attention on him, especially among the casual fans who have maybe never seen him play.
And especially if that goal comes courtesy of a one-timer, like a cerebral way of scoring an NHL goal, because as much as we like to believe the Canucks are all that and their forward group is full of, again, all that, which is true. It really is. I do think there is room for a player that has that one strike ability that Lekkerimaki possibly has to be added to this team. And I'm even willing to add that type of element to the team and take away maybe like a two-way piece if need be, because Lekkermaki's young and he can learn. Drance made this point, I think, yesterday, talking about how, I know it was a scrimmage, but during that scrimmage, Lekkerimaki showed really strong sides in his two-way game. So, let's see what Lekkerimaki does today. And if he goes bar down for a couple, boom, bam. I'm telling you, this guy's making the team.
Yeah, and I think, in the scrimmage, it was one scrimmage, right? But you look at a guy like Lekkerimaki versus Archie Baines, and, Baines made a couple defensive errors in that game. One led to a goal by Garland. Lekkerimaki, on the other hand, I actually think had a couple of really astute defensive plays, breaking up passes, getting the puck up the ice. So the guy's shown a lot of maturity. He's raising the hype on himself with his performance, and let's see how he does in the preseason. We'll break down the most notable things from Canucks preseason action tomorrow night, as well as everything else regarding your Vancouver Canucks as well, because it's Locked On Canucks. It's your Canucks every goddamn day, baby, okay? So shout out to everyone from the everydayers to the first-time listeners. Again, if you're on YouTube, go subscribe and like. Helps us out a lot on the podcast side. Follow, leave a 5-star review. That really helps us out a lot as well. For now, we got to get out of here. That guy's Kyle Bowen. I'm Trevor Beggs, and you've been listening to Locked On Canucks.